39 minutes past the hour. Good evening once again. In case you're just joining us, this is the Daily Report on TV 47 with me, George Maringa. Tonight, we focus on matters Kenya-UK relations ahead of the start of the official tour by King Charles III and Queen Camilla of the United Kingdom. The tour here in the country beginning tomorrow, the 31st of October 2023 to 3rd November. There is next month. Of course, quite unexpected visit, especially coming in from Kenyans. Tonight we speak to two people. That is Professor Peter Kagwanja. He is, of course, not a new face to you all. He is a governance, diplomacy and foreign relations expert. And also joining us from London is Elizabeth Kangethe. She is a councillor of the local government in the London Borough Council and of Barking and Dunningham. And she is the first Kenyan to be elected as mayor, a position she held between 2014 and 2015, and is also the vice president of London Mayors Association. Mheshimiwa, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us and for staying put. We'll begin with you, Councillor. We did see you, first of all, you can hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Absolutely. We can also hear you loud and clear. Mheshimiwa, we'll begin with your reflections. Apart from the position you hold, of course, back in the UK, you interacted with the King and Queen last week at Buckingham Palace ahead of their visit. What are some of the reflections that perhaps you got from your fellow Kenyans in the UK and what they think about this whole royal visit to Kenya?
Thank you very much, George. Yes, that's true. His Majesty, the King and the Queen hosted Kenyans at Buckingham Palace ahead of the 60th anniversary and again ahead of his royal visit to Kenya.
Yes.
And I was among the few Kenyans who were lucky to be selected because we were quite a number.
Yeah.
And again, I was lucky to be among the first 10 to be selected to receive the King, His Majesty, and have a word with him.
Yeah.
And it was all full of excitement for him, talking about how much he's looking forward to visiting Kenya, his excitement about his late mom having, gotten into the throne or in Kenya. And again, talking about how he wants to try and support enhancing that relationship between UK and Kenya.
Yeah.
He actually did ask me a few questions, about what I think about Kenya and UK.
And what did you tell him?
So, yeah, I did say, obviously, it's quite cordial. I would say it's quite cordial, apart from the few things that happened, And I believe, just like most people have been saying, yes, apologies, it's okay. It comes from His Majesty. But I think also it's time that we build the bridges and be able to move on, because there's quite a lot that we can do together. First of all, we are so lucky to be the first place that he's visiting since, going on the throne as the first Commonwealth country. So that's one of the things that I told him, that I think we are so privileged, we are so lucky that he has chosen to come and visit my country, So I think it's a good thing.
Yes, and there have been concerns, of course, listening and seeing on social media the concerns raised by Kenyans. You're speaking of apology and, of course, moving on. But, you know very well, I mean, you were Kenyan first, of course, before you moved to the UK. And you know how much of an apology means to Kenya regarding what, the Kenyans went through during the colonial rule. We've had Martha Karua, the leader of NARC Kenya Party, saying the head of Koitalel Arab Samoei needs to come back to Kenya. What are some of the issues that perhaps you think would help in achieving, because on one hand, the UK says it regrets, we've heard also from the UK High Commissioner, and also on the other hand, Kenya wants an apology. At what point do we draw the line and the balance?
Can I say, having been a teacher, definitely I've read all the history, what we went through, which wasn't really a very nice experience for anyone looking at it.
Yes.
However, now that we've moved on, yes, an apology would be ideal. Although it wouldn't really pay that pain our people, our great grandparents, our grandparents went through. But I think, yes, if he offers an apology, I think it should be taken with open arms by everybody. And I think he has already said, that he feels, he's apologetic of what happened, because obviously we know it's nothing to do with him.
Yes.
It's just like if anything happens and I'm the one on the throne, I'm taken as the person to take the full responsibility. But I think as Kenyans, personally, I think we should look at the positives, what more can we do to create a cordial relationship? Look at the way, the British Army having, British having chosen Kenya as the point. Look at Kenya is actually the Horn of Africa.
Yeah.
So I think there's more that we can do. And if there's any compensation, that's not my area. Maybe, according to the legal status, what can be done can be done. I know I've done law, I'm a lawyer, but I don't know how far that has gone.
Yeah.
But at the moment for this state visit, I think we should concentrate more on the positives of how can we get those cordial relationships between Britain and Kenya.
Yeah, as we enter the home stretch of this conversation, Mheshimiwa, as a councillor, you've had the, concerns, especially, regarding the relationship between Kenya and the UK. It is quite tedious a process to obtain a UK visa. And, of course, for Kenyans who want to seek, fortunes further abroad, further afield, when you look at the relationship between the two countries, of course, the UK being the, in the developed countries region and in the global north, and Kenya being in the global south, do you think that the balance that exists now, the UK having sort of a bigger share of the cake, even in trade relations, bridging the gap, even as you have the monarch arrive in Kenya,
yes,
looking at it all, how do you perceive?
Can you hear me, Stu?
Yes, I can hear you.
I think you lost me somewhere.
Can you hear me?
Have we lost you?
No.
Or have you lost me, whichever way?
No, perhaps, but you can hear me? Yeah, you're back now.
Yes, I can hear you.
Absolutely.
I can hear you.
Yes.
Yes, I think it's about time. Particularly, you spoke about the visas. That's an area that personally I think should be revisited.
Yes.
And we try and create more. Creation of jobs is very, very important. Look at the latest where we're having nurses and care workers being recruited to come and work here. Job creation. The other day, I had a meeting with the PS for diaspora, and one of my issues was I've been a teacher for many years, both in Kenya and here, and a head teacher, and I know there is a shortage of teachers here. So those are some of the areas I think Britain and Kenya should be looking at. How can we create more jobs? Because I think that it's still the issue of visas is very, very crucial. I know I've got relatives, I've got family, my parents, and even whenever they want to come and visit me, it's such a struggle. It's expensive for them to visit, even to get a visit visa. So those are some of the areas where I think we should be working on. We should be trying to create that relationship and try and see how can we improve on that.
Yeah.
The same with the British Army. Get more of them because there is a lot of jobs, there's a lot of businesses that go on when we have that. So I think the visa issue is an area that we really need to look at and see whether it can be either the visa fees or maybe make it visa free. I don't know how, but also try and get more Kenyans working to work here, because I tell you what, Kenyans settle in very, very well. One, our language, we don't have an issue. Our education background, because most of what we do in Kenya, we inherited from Britain. So I think those are the areas personally I would want to be looking at where we can work on once the relations improve.
And, as we end up this conversation, Mheshimiwa, your parting shot, of course, to Kenyans, even as you look forward to the beginning of the royal visit tomorrow?
Yes, I would say receive the royals with open arms, to be honest, and let's look at it in a more positive way. If it's the other legal issues, I think we've got the legal person who can deal with that. Otherwise, let's welcome them. We enjoy the good life here. We enjoy the relationships here. Some of us came as teachers, some people are nurses, you know, all sorts of professionals here. And I believe there's more that we can do together. So I'm glad that they're visiting, and I'm happy. And I sent him, and when I met him, I said, you know, go and send our regards and say, Kenyans in diaspora, we are happy that His Majesty and Her Majesty are visiting Kenya.
Okay, absolutely. Councillor, thank you so much for joining us on TV47 tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. That is Councillor Kangethe, a local government elected councillor in the London Borough Council of Barking and Dunningham. She is also the first Kenyan to be elected as mayor, a position that she held between 2014 to 2015, and is also the vice president of the London Mayors Association, and of course part of the Kenyan community in the UK. Here in studio, I still have Professor